everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily show in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate The Last Jedi one sanctimonious minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
And I'm Chrysanthe Tan from Star Wars Music Minute, and I also have music everywhere online. Chrysanthe Tan, you can just look it up.
Everywhere.
There's not a single place where it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome back. Thanks for joining us here for minute 57. Minute 57 starts off with Finn and Rose experiencing the excitement that only comes with fancier racing. And it ends a minute later with BB-8 arriving to join in on the fun.
Now, I've been looking forward to this minute for a while because since we started this movie, you've been pronouncing father years in a variety of ways, and you were like, "Is it? I don't know."
Not gone unnoticed.
They never say it. I don't
never say it out loud in the movie. So.
And everybody's like, "Does he not know that they say it in the movie?" And I don't tell him. I want to see what he keeps doing. And a couple of people have brought it up, and it's been this moment. We're gonna wait and let him hear it in the movie. And the very first word in this minute is Rose saying "father years."
Father years.
Take that.
No, so, I am your father.
Exactly. It's like that. So I'm excited for you to be presented with this. It's like the key to the city. Like, Alex, here is Rose saying father years.
Mia frickin' culpa already. Yes, we get to see the Fathier race go on.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to see we get a binoculars shot. Always a Star Wars staple, someone looking through binoculars, and then you see it from their point of view.
Although, I have to say, for the richest place that we've seen yet, these binoculars look the cheapest. They look kind of plasticky and low-quality binoculars. They don't look like they have heft to them, whereas like Luke's binoculars, even though they're kind of boxy and beat up, they look like they're doing something. And of course, the Hoth binoculars and the Droids
those are utility binoculars. These are cheap seats tourist binoculars.
That's true. I guess the people who need these are the people who couldn't afford to get up close, so they are,
or don't have their own like opera glass.
Right.
Plus, they're all glitz and no substance. They're like fancy on the outside, like gold plated and whatever, but sort of like props.
Yeah.
Well, they also have one advantage that I don't think any other binoculars we've seen yet have, which is that when Finn looks through them, not only can he see stuff happening from far away, he can hear the guy talking and he can hear the guy zapping the animal and stuff. So they do have a feature that other binoculars do not have, which is microphone, like acoustic. It's like a spy binoculars. You listen in on people.
I'm thrilled that you made that observation.
Thank you.
Are we assuming that he's actually hearing that, or is that just well we're hearing that because we're watching it, but
I think we're seeing it through his eyes and hearing it through his ears.
Well, I mean, what else? What do you mean? Like,
well, that just could be us. Our privileged position as viewers of the film. We're hearing it, but it's not necessarily what he's hearing.
I don't think it matters because the point of zooming in on what he sees in the binoculars is that he gets the point of what they're trying to convey, and we get the point that we get the same point that Finn gets.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is bad. That is bad.
Yes.
This actually made me even it kind of reminded me of what I get frustrated about with Finn's arc, is that this is kind of like Finn, seeing these kids who are basically slaves of the Fanthier trainer. Like, that really should strike a chord with Finn because he was basically a child soldier captured by the First Order. So it's
it does strike a chord with him, does it not?
Well, but it also in the Rise of Skywalker, and in the Rise of Skywalker, he's totally fine just killing off as many First Order soldiers as he can in that movie. So I always thought his arc should have been, I'm going to go help the other people who are enslaved by the First Order that I was lucky enough to escape from. But he's just like, I don't care. I'm just going to kill them all. So.
Well,
I mean, it
there's
doesn't really
also
specifically have to do with this minute, but it reminded me of, oh, look, there's these kids enslaved, just like Finn was. So,
but it seems like, they don't want to be there, whereas a lot of the First Order soldiers seem like, even if they're, they've been essentially brainwashed, they seem like, they're still into it. Whereas Finn had that moment of, I don't think he's
right.
not going to be able to convince people that they're wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but he does meet up with, the other group of in the Rise of Skywalker. He does meet up with
Right.
the other group of ex-stormtroopers who also had that kind of moral awakening, and so he does. I don't think he could be.
But anyway, but in this minute, he is, like you said, he is affected by it. So in the context of this minute, it does, it does make Finn sort of wake up to what's going on.
Right.
So.
Although I would
also, the kids are being abused, and that's where the chain is stopping. Whereas with the First Order troopers, it's like, yeah, they've been, potentially abused, and they're also harming others. So I think there's, a whole other. These kids aren't trying to kill anyone.
Well, not yet.
Yeah.
But we do get to see slave driver Bargwell Tomder. The guy who's beating the Fanthier and also I guess presumably the children. And he now, I don't care what species, I don't care what universe you're from, that guy is ugly. If you look at his face, and it even says he has an infected ingrown nose tendrils. So no one good reason why he's working down in the horse farms.
I'm sure he's pretty to someone though.
Was there a Mrs. Bargwell?
I don't know.
There.
I do think it's across the board in films. I think it's a little bit lazy when bad people are just given
gross
whatever society thinks are ugly characteristics.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it would have been more interesting to be like if you flip flop, and we'll get to this tomorrow. I will want to talk to it tomorrow when we talk about it tomorrow when we see him. But what if you flip flopped the slave driver and master code breaker? If the traditionally handsome Justin Theroux was the slave driver and the kind of the quote unquote hideous monster was the master code breaker. But we'll talk about that tomorrow because there's a whole nother wrinkle to that. Got it. Okay. Well, I will just say let it be on the record that hideous is just always it's a cultural construct, and so I don't subscribe to that. Right. But I also think that like portraying quote unquote hideous people in films ends up feeding into mistreatment of people who actually might look like that, which humans do look like a lot of things and have a lot of things.
I agree that it would have been I think that would have been a good lesson to include in a Star Wars movie, as opposed to like say, Poe, you should do what you're told, like that kind of I think would have been a bigger message than that. But it's the same thing with like I've said it before about prosthetics and stuff. Every character we meet who's like a cyborg or has a metal arm is a bad guy in the film, except for Luke, of course. Right. I don't like that Bargwell sounds. There's a certain sound that a lot of the Disney era aliens have, and he is like, it's that same kind of voice, and I don't like that. I would like to see a wider diversity of voices from aliens in the film. So, like a high pitched, like a, hey, you kids, get back to work, like or something like that. High falsetto voice. Yeah. So I do. So this conversation, where Rose is kind of giving us a little exposition about her backstory. Mm-hmm. I feel like that should lead to Finn being like, "Oh, where are you from? Maybe I bombed it," like because that, he was with the First Order. Granted, not for he was not actively a boots on the ground stormtrooper for very long at all, but he was.
Wait, do we know that for a fact?
I believe that his, the beginning of the Force Awakens, that the raid that we see him on is his first official raid, his first official kind of
Oh, I didn't know
operation
that.
as a
Okay.
stormtrooper.
Mhm.
I don't remember where that came from, but I remember hearing that. But
That's
Finn is
surprising to me.
clueless, though. Finn is so
yeah,
clueless.
yeah.
And he is. I know you've read the book, Pete. And
I started to, and then I don't know where I put it.
okay,
Around
okay.
here somewhere.
Well, in this part, I mean, Rose is really trying to psychoanalyze Finn
Mhm.
throughout a lot of this because she's like, why is Finn so weird and obsessed with Rey? What is up with him? And this is sort of the point where she's starting to think like, okay, he was raised a trooper. Okay. Maybe like babies do when they latch on to the first person they see, maybe like he's just latched onto Rey because Rey's like the first
Right.
person that he really became friend. Like that's the first friend, and so that's all he can think about. That's what he knows outside of being a first order trooper. And Rose in the book like goes through this whole like journey of like, okay, I'll just be understanding of him, and okay, this is what, because it's clear that she kind of likes him, I think, in the book. And Finn just keeps, I mean, he just keeps acting like he does in the film, which is, where's Rey? Where's Rey? I don't know what's going on. But of course, the Canto Bites, I think this section is where he starts to grow, and
Not literally.
that was the end.
Be funny if he physically. Would be funny if he physically grew.
His heart grew 3 sizes.
Yeah.
The big Finn theory.
And then he did put his fist through the entire town because he got so big that he could.
Oh.
See, that's the.
Notice how the source music, how the is now heard through the door. We don't hear it loud like the score. We hear it clearly like it's supposed to be coming from inside. And that's what tells me that it's not incidental. It's what tells me it's supposed to be the people in the casino can hear that performance. Yeah.
The music is coming from inside the house.
Which is also like to bring up, not that this is George Lucas, but to bring up American Graffiti, which is why I think that film sounds like it has. I feel like that sound, even though it's has so many songs, like that's the whole thing of American Graffiti. Is there's so much music in it. It sounds almost quiet to me. It sounds like almost like a silent film to me because there's no score, and so the music isn't like, like we hear music through the radio and we hear it filtered through like someone's car, but then it shuts and then we don't hear it anymore. So like there is music, but it's very clearly like the soundtrack to the characters, not the soundtrack to the audience. So it actually, for me, like this conversation between Rose and Finn, even though the music is playing in the background in the casino, it doesn't sound like it sounds like they're having a quiet conversation until Rose's theme starts.
Which again, that's like we normally have a privileged position as the viewer, that we get extra music and we get extra sound and stuff like that the characters might not get. But here, the music being kind of diegetic makes it seem like we're not. We're just experiencing it as they are. So
yeah, which I like.
You know what I like, and we don't see enough of in this minute, even though we get a flash of it, is Jockey Silks.
Jockey Silks.
Jockey Silks. Just the outfits that the father jockeys are wearing. And I like them in real life. I like them in Star Wars. I like them. I like that look for some reason. Why am I attracted to it? Is it because I grew up kind of looking at the Sgt. Pepper cover a lot, and it looks kind of like that. But there's very kind of bright block color, single color, shiny outfits. I'm a big fan of that.
They look like Power Rangers to me.
Is that what their whole outfit is called? A silk?
Yeah, they're like your outfit as a jockey is called your silks, and it's also like they're kind of coded. It's combining a couple of things that I like, I guess. It's because it's also very specific to that jockey or that team, so you can tell who they are just
It's
by
like
that.
medieval times.
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
So you can see, you can
Like
see
the Green Knight and
right.
the checkered knight and
Right.
okay.
So it's almost like nautical flags or something like that, but but on a person, so you can see kind of from a distance. It helps you identify what you're looking at, which is neat. I like that. I like that whole system. I like that. And I like it here, and I wish we would have seen more of them. They are in, as Alex is about to mention, they are in the visual guide.
This is true.
I thought you were going to give us more dope about that, because it's like it is something I would like to. It's an aspect that I get it. It has no real bearing on the plot, and you can argue what you will about this whole segment having no bearing on the plot, but I think as long as we're here, there's a real interesting part of this that I would like to see more of, and that's the jockeys and their silks. Although again, that could be a thing for a separate story. And the moral of the story is going to introduce us to that this whole fathier racing is immoral. And there's parallels to be drawn. Like I like jockey silks and stuff like that as a concept, but I don't. I'm not a real fan of horse racing here, but fathier racing in a sci-fi or space opera film, I want to see more of that. Besides the little 3 pictures of them that we see in the visual guide.
What do you mean by you don't like horse racing here? Do you mean in The Last Jedi, or you mean like horse racing doesn't fit in Star Wars?
I mean here on Earth. I'm not a big fan of it.
Oh, right.
Even though I like looking at silks, and I like racehorse names, and I like jockey silks, but I don't like,
You're more of a dog racing guy.
I don't like riding other animals until they die. Like that's not a good thing that we should support. But I do.
These really bother me. The fathiers really bother me. Not the existence of them in Star Wars.
Okay.
I appreciate that because I think it's a conversation that we need to have. Usually when I critique Star Wars, it's from the perspective of I feel like I live in there.
Right. It's good.
I feel like maybe I'm a strange fan for it, but I very easily take to whatever's thrown in front of me, whether or not objectively one would think it's good filmmaking or not. I very easily take things as like, okay, yeah, I believe, like I take everything at face value. And even if I don't like it, I'm like, well, that's canon now. Like I don't know. It's hard for me to separate those things and to even imagine alternate ways that films could have been made or stories could have been told. Because once I know a piece of information, my brain has a hard time removing that. And does that make sense at all? Like, it just fathiers exist, and so I'm into it. But as someone who lives in Star Wars, I do not like the fathier industry at all either.
Right.
And something that really bothers me in discussions of Canto Bight and in the Canto Bight book is like, even Rose and Paige, they love fathiers, okay? So they love fathiers. It's their favorite animal, whatever. They've never seen one in real life. Just would love to ride a fathier one day. There's also a sympathetic character in the book who is one of the stable people. She works in the stable, and she has her favorite fathier, and someone's trying to hurt, like, to change the feed, and like hurt her poor fathier, and like he's sick, and like she really cares for him, and like doesn't like how he's mistreated and everything, and like it's of this very like animal rights sort of this fathier, like she really cares. And then just offhandedly, it's like, and her biggest dream one day is to become a fathier racer. And I'm like, see, those things in my head don't line up. And so that story kind of ends with like, they make some deal where then she ends up not having to do that job anymore, and she starts getting fathier riding lessons. And I'm like, what? How? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
Although
you can be an ethical fathier racer.
I think it's also consistent with Earth attitudes.
Human.
I think a
True.
lot of I think a
True.
lot of people, who would consider themselves horse people and not like centaurs, but like horse, people who are into horses and love their horses, and they're also, the ones who ride the horses, and not necessarily always in racing, but in ways that might not be, necessarily the best for the horse.
I agree. So in that sense, it is a realistic portrayal. It just
Right.
bothers me on Earth and on Canto Bight.
Right.
Bothers me in both places. And a difference between Earth and Canto Bight is that on Earth, horses are considered sentient beings.
Hmm.
In Star Wars, fathiers are not considered sentient.
Hmm.
What do you mean they're considered? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So like sentience on Earth would be like, I don't know, all animals. You can like chickens and horses and humans, we're all sentient beings. Because we can feel sensations, right?
Hmm.
So in Star Wars, sentience means a different thing.
Hmm.
In Star Wars, humans are sentient, Wookiees are sentient, Nemoidians are sentient. Like basically the aliens that talk are sentient, and porgs, fathiers, tauntauns, banthas, even volptexes, even the crate dragon, mudhorn.
Hmm.
Those are not sentient. Endorian chicken, so Earth chickens are sentient. Endorian chickens are not sentient. So there's this hierarchy of like which living creatures in Star Wars, and we all know like intuitively the line is kind of blurred between what in Star Wars is an alien or a creature, like an animal.
Right.
Like Bantha versus Wookiee. Like how would you instinctively know that difference? And the problem is that in Star Wars, sentience is what on Earth we would consider sentience and sapience all wrapped into one. So sentience in Star Wars is, and I looked this up on Wikipedia to make sure, the quality of self-awareness, abstract thinking, and higher reasoning. So basically, it's intelligence. So that's why in Star Wars, a lot of droids are sentient too. I think that's a significant problem that a lot of droids are considered sentient in Star Wars, but not like fathiers.
Right.
I don't like that. And it shows like this preference for intelligence over just ability to have feelings and to feel pain and stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to think of like low, like again, in quotes, lower kind of like what's the least kind of thinking or the creature that we have the least evidence of them thinking, and yet we consider them a creature, a sentient being, and not necessarily like like a Gamorrean guard. We see them just kind of walking around and grunting, and there's some intelligence to it, but we see that from other things that we consider more animals. In like a fathier and a Gamorrean guard, I wouldn't necessarily put much space between them as far as or even like the Rancor. Like, why is the Rancor creature a monster?
Right, and I think that's another thing. First of all, Gamorrean guards are considered sentient,
Yeah.
and I think the
Because they wear
through
clothes.
line is like whether the humans can communicate with them, like whether they can speak basic or whether a protocol droid knows how to like. It all comes down to communication. Honestly, I think it's a very ableist way of categorizing society, and I don't know. Just can you imagine how problematic that would be on Earth?
Right.
To consider just the intelligent species or people more worthy, more sentient.
Well, that is kind of how it is on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of weird demarcations on Earth too that we.
Yeah, basically, if an animal tastes good, we'll eat it. We don't
Right.
care how smart it is. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that we tend to think of every there's humans, and then there's a line where every other animal is on there, and if you're on the other side of that line, then you're we can pretty much do whatever we want with you. So
Yeah,
Right.
which I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a problem, but
Oh yeah. No,
um
but yeah.
I think that in Star Wars, like I think it
A
makes
lot
me
of
think
ethical
of like, okay,
problems and
take a
stuff.
step back. What point of view is Star Wars told from? Okay, so I guess we're getting this mostly through human point of view. So can we really take at face value what they consider these terms? Is this the wills speaking? Are the wills one day going to be like, you know what, let's rethink sentience? I don't
Right.
know, because in Star Wars there are also all these movements of droid rights, sentient sentient rights, and all that stuff, which it's fine. Okay, that's fine. I don't. That's fine. Okay, if the droids can eventually can feel feelings, which I think some of them can, um, yeah, okay. But then why is there no like animal? Why is there no like bantha rights and whatever? And the very small creatures, I think, are actually treated better than the really really big creatures.
Hmm.
And I think there are parallels to that on Earth as well, which is like, um, I'm watching Clone Wars now. So a few weeks ago, I was at the episode where there's this big Zillo beast who's basically like Godzilla. And it is a devastating episode. Like, they're like trying to kill this big beast. And it's like, this beast is clearly in pain. And they take the beast from its like they clearly put the beast in a situation where they take it away from its place and they put it in a dangerous situation and then they try to ensnare it and they shoot at it and it's like clearly in a lot of pain and it's very sad. It's very
It's like King
sad.
Kong.
And the Zillo beast is considered to have emerging sentience, but that's it.
Hmm.
And the Krayt Dragon, we see, I mean, I didn't like in The Mandalorian when the Krayt Dragon died,
Yeah.
but okay, I understand if the Krayt Dragon was a threat, I guess. But still, like on Earth, humans have also caused the near extinction or extinction of many big creatures. Like it's actually a problem on Earth where the big mammals are actually really dying out. Like we think we're full of elephants and zebras and tigers and everything, but actually the amount of big mammals that are still on Earth is very small, and it takes longer for big for big mammals to reproduce, and so big creatures they go extinct more easily. And humans have kind of like, I don't know,
Yeah.
expedited that, but will factory farm whatever tons and tons and tons of chickens, the small ones that we can keep docile and like under our control, but like the big creatures, the banthas, the tauntauns, like we almost don't give a about them because like in Star Wars, because they're bigger, they're beasts. They're
Right.
they're they're considered beasts once they're past a certain size. So there you go. Sorry.
No, it's true. It does make me. I'm sure that somewhere within Star Wars there are the kind of the beast rights groups, which we just haven't seen yet. That are and there are again creatures on the edge that we don't which side do they fall on within
Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
Well, and I think also, like we are fortunate enough to live in a time where of relative peace, where we can focus on things like animal rights and stuff like that. But if you're in like a war situation where even human creature or even sentient creatures are being killed all the time, like I imagine there'd be even less like in a place where planets are blowing up. I feel like people would be less concerned about like, oh, are banthas being treated okay when you know uh I don't think if during World War II was probably not a great time to be an animal rights activist because people are already worried enough about humans surviving that, you know, it's a relatively privileged position to be in where you can say, okay, well, these things that we're eating as food, should we really be eating them as food? Is that not a good thing to do? So anyway.
I think that whether or not we're going through hard, I think the onus isn't. It's a collective problem. It's not like a individuals making bad choices problem because none of us can see from our own insular perspective that the banthas are dying out. We have no idea. Like I didn't know until I had to learn the fact that all these tigers and lions and whatever I learned about in school and saw at zoos, I had to learn that, oh, actually, I think the plain like Serengeti is like full of them. And I have this perception in my mind that there's so many of those in the world. I had to learn that that's not true. And it's not necessarily my fault, specifically me, but
the way
we
it's
do know that
presented.
it's like collective human, pollution, and it's all these things that are just like, it's no one's fault. It's just like it's a cause and effect circumstance that is happening. And honestly, well, yeah, I think it's not something that an individual can change. I think it's something collectively, organizational. Like, I just think it's a much bigger thing. And so like the fathier industry, I feel like is something where, okay, you can be one ethical writer, sure. You cannot tase your fathier. Okay, that's great. But Canto Bight is full of war profiteers. It's full of people that like to make money. They don't care. And even this person, what's his name? Bilbo Baggins? Like, but Bilwarg, whatever.
Bargwill Tonder?
Bargwill Tomder. Like, he's not the main criminal here. There's people over him that are making him do that. And at the end of the day, they all have to make money. Their fathiers have to perform. They have to, they keep the fathier races going 24/7. Actually, they keep the stadium lit up all the time so that they can have more races going out through the day. So you never know what time it is. They talk about in the book how like it's not like they just happen at 6 o'clock every day. It's like they keep fathier races going on perpetually so that people in Canto Bight can just feel like they don't know what time it is.
Right. Although I will say that even though he's essentially just doing his job, he is whipping children. So it's he's not blameless, but he's a cog in the machine, but he's also
but he can break
children,
the chain.
So yeah.
Speaking of which,
he doesn't look too broken up about it.
We get to see the press dubbed Broomboy for the first time, better known as Temery Blag.
Yeah.
And I remember there being a lot of speculation as to would he show up in the third movie as the new generation of Jedi. And so
I never thought he was going to show up again.
Really?
I think he showed up at Tony Stark's funeral, right? And everybody was confused. They're like, wait a minute.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Blip.
Not a Marvel person.
All I know is I wish I could put my fist through this entire lousy, beautiful town. I go back and forth on whether I like that line or not.
I
like it.
I don't mind it.
Because lousy beautiful is a good.
I know, that's why
phrase. That's what makes it good. If she just said, I just want to put my fist through this whole lousy town, I would be like, it's kind of. But lousy beautiful adds a little nuance, adds a little wrinkle to it.
Yeah. It sounds very film noir to me.
Because she loves it and hates it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we do. We just touched upon this. We're talking about the ethics of fathiers. But this is where the crux of the kind of moral of at least this part of the story comes in with the Star Wars. We all love these Star Wars, but wars are they have a price.
They don't make one great.
Yeah, they do make these guys great because great in terms of their bank accounts, because we've come really, essentially this is like not a full circle, but like something that especially the very first Star Wars, the motion picture was very often literally black and white in terms of just kind of here's a very kind of like old film serial, just kind of basic story about heroes and villains. And then as the franchise expands, we get more kind of wrinkles to that, and here is the
nuance,
kind of very getting underneath all of that and questioning there's only one way to get rich off of one way to get this much money, and it's Star Wars. It's selling weapons to the First Order, and as we'll later learn, potentially to some other.
I actually really like
too.
this. I like this war profiteer thing.
Yeah.
I think it's an added layer that we need in Star Wars. And I note that Rose says there's only one way you can get this rich, and Finn says war, and she says selling weapons to the First Order. And both are right, but I actually think Finn is more right, because Rose, from her point of view, because she's, with the Resistance,
Right.
she sees it as like selling weapons to the First Order is the bad part. And I mean, or is the part that makes you rich. But what they really are doing is they're selling weapons to everyone.
Right.
And war is probably more accurate.
Yeah, she's maybe not seeing it because she's coming at it from her point of view. But Finn, who's been on both sides, is more.
And she also, I think we learn more from the secondary code breaker that that they're selling to both sides. So
Right.
Rose maybe thinks that they're only selling to the First Order.
Right.
Because we would never buy from them.
Right.
But I mean, they get their stuff from someone. So
I know. But how often do we do things not knowing exactly the chain of like how we got those things?
Right.
I think we like to think that we're not involved with Canto Bite as much as we are.
Yeah. I do applaud the anti-capitalist message of the film. I do like
me
that.
too.
Yeah.
So points for them. Anything else for minute 57 before we got more Canto Bite action coming up?
We start with Rose's theme here.
Yeah, any musical? Well, I guess you can.
Yeah. Oh, is that okay? Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Because you mentioned, I think yesterday, Rose's theme, and I was like, "What is Rose's theme?" And then once you just sang a little bit right there, I was like, "Oh yeah, I know Rose's theme." I'm notoriously very kind of music blind when it comes to this stuff, so I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
I have an episode coming up where I'm gonna really delve into Rose's theme from 5 points of view. So,
ooh, nice.
Look out for that on my show.
Well, okay, we'll all be tuning in for that. And if that's not enough podcasting for you, dear listener, go to moviesbyminutes.com. That's where you'll find the complete catalog of all of the people breaking down their movies by minutes. Hey, Sam, is your show listed on there? Pete, do you know if it would?
I actually don't know. How do I get on that?
I know some people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Connect me with them, please.
Yeah, I'll make sure it gets added to that because it's
it definitely fits in the mandate.
More so than some of the other shows that are on there. But I like the community. I like the people. Again, there are no rules, but some people are approaching the format very liberally, and that's fine. Welcome to everybody. I'm not gatekeeping, but Star Wars Music Minute should definitely be
Come on, Broomboy.
Yeah. So go to moviesbyminutes.com, check that out, and join us tomorrow for another Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars.